SmashFactor.
Ripping driver, going for it. Oh my goodness. How about that tee shot?
That is crazy how far that is.
Wow. John Daly, take a back seat, big fella. How about that drive?
That's an aggressive line. Man, that is beyond long.
Look at this. He's just driven the green. He has just driven the green.
I guess. Hello world, huh?
First, second, 18th, second, first, second, fifth, fourth, first, 23rd, first, 11th, first, third, second, 8th, 5th, 13th, 4th, 13th, first, third, first, 12th, 16th, 20th, 25th, 29th, first, 23rd, 16th, and 13th. 39 events, 39 cuts made, 38 top 25, 26 top 10s, 13 wins, 4 majors, 2 years. Now, although Brooks had a great week, there is absolutely, without a doubt, zero comparison to Tiger Woods and his greatness. That is where I'll start tonight. This is the Smash Factor. A little bit different style tonight. This is your host for the evening, Gup. I got Tambo filling in for Bucks and Ruvy here as usual in a little bit different role, but expanded role for him. I'm going to take the lead for a little bit. But, you know, it bothered me a little bit, some of the stuff I was seeing. Greatest of all time, greatest performance, and we're 2 or 3 rounds in. So I wanted to make sure I did a little bit of research and wasn't anecdotally thinking of how great not only his whole career was, but the 2 years. There's guys that would strive to have that their entire career, and they don't have near that, what I just listed off. So let's not get caught up in the moment of greatness or GOATs or greatest of all time and what everybody's, thinking is when we got 3 holes left in the tournament Sunday and it's a 1-stroke lead all of a sudden. Now, don't get me wrong. I really, really, really thought Brooks played well. He played a great tournament. He could go down as one of the best ever, but let's not crown him yet, as some would say. Let's let it play out and enjoy the greatness of what's going on, but let's not get into the battles of greatest of all time. What I just listed off is unthinkable. When I was writing it earlier, I couldn't believe it. Very impressive 2-year stretch, obviously. And hey, what Brooks has done over 2 years, the same 4 majors, not even near the resume though, is impressive as well. But let's not rush to crown the next Michael Jordan or the next Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus or Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Let's let it play out. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Thrive Fantasy app. Use the promo code GUP and receive $10 free with your first deposit of $20. Deposit bonus is for a limited time only. Get the money while you can. Gonna pick up steam there as we head to football season. So I'd go ahead and get in now. Get used to the app. Get familiar with it. When football season gets here, we'll be all over it, especially with props and everything else. Fanshare Sports, affiliate of the podcast, use the code GUP, get 20% off. Get the Pro Advantage. Fanshare Sports Pro gets you all the ownership exclusivities that you need. Tags, mentions, better, worse, week over week. Go check them out. Our original and lifelong affiliate, Fantasy National. Use the tools we use, fantasynational.com/GUP. Click on the link on the website, and all these are on the website on the affiliate page. You get 20% off your next subscription. That's exclusive to Gup's Corner. Prices went up right around the Masters, and with that, you can use this code to get you back to the original price that was there. Great offer, great code, great tools. We all use them. We all reference them. If you're in the Slack, you'll see how often it's referenced. So go check them out. Our boy Moose runs a show over there. great guy. He's in the chat as well, the Slack chat. So if you have questions, he answers fairly quickly. So it's a good resource to have as you're doing your weekly grind. As always, rate and review us on iTunes, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We will have a big prize pack for the U.S. Open. Each of those that you do, iTunes, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, get you an entry into this. And then we'll have a special announcement, maybe tonight, maybe a little later, that'll get you even more entries into this mega prize pack. And it's also a good way to promote the brand. I'll get confirmation whether we're ready to release that by the end of the show, but looking forward to that. As I said, Bucks is celebrating, I believe, 12 years of marriage with his beautiful wife. And we obviously allow him to take the evening off and relax. He did get his article out this morning. Make sure you go check that out. We got Tambo filling in for him, which is always a pleasure. And then Ruvy as well. Ruvy, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I had a member of Gup's Corner come by my work today, and so we got a couple rounds of indoor golf in with some couple beers, and so it's been a really good day. It's a little crappy weather here. It's supposed to snow again tonight, but I feel like Tambo right now. I feel like I'm in Canada. But besides that, it's going pretty well, actually. So I actually pray we like bad weather now because of my job, so we like bad weather.
It's 93 to here today, so no snow in the forecast.
No.
Tambo, how you doing this evening in Canada? Warm Canada or cold Canada?
Today's warm Canada, so I'm doing good. I'm doing well. I'm having a solid day. I'm passionate. I'm excited as always. I get to be on the SmashFactor with no bucks. So when he asked me if I could sub in, I said yes right away and ready to rock and roll and get to another tournament, man. We had another good one yesterday. I know we were in the Slack wide open yesterday cheering for that was the most exciting 10 minutes of golf, I think, that I've had in a while. You know, the water balls at the Masters was something. But yesterday when it was just, like they said, everyone was looking for something. Please get someone back in this tournament. And when DJ was going and Brooks was going the other way, I was really hoping DJ was going to get it done back to the top of the show because of that reason, because there was too many crowns handed out 36 holes in at Bethpage Black of all courses.
18 holes handed in, right?
Yeah, pretty. I mean, it is what it is. Brooks had a fantastic first round. He had a fantastic first couple of days. He still held his own and got it done. I mean, nowhere near the same comparison, but the same thing they said about Ricky at Waste Management. He went through some shit on Sunday, but he came out stronger. As far as Brooks, yes, it's his fourth major, which makes it an incredible feat. But I'm just saying that's still good for him too, to be able to come around and get it done. I do think one thing I had a little bit of an issue with was I get he's the alpha dog. I actually really like his interviews. I like hearing him talk. I like that little bit of, chip on his shoulder edge, but he wouldn't give in to anything. Like someone said, like Ricky said, his caddy said, they both said he looked nervous in the after event interviews. Well, no, I wasn't nervous. That was just shock. And it's like, man, you're allowed to have emotion. I don't need you to cry on the tee or on the green when you win. I'm not do what you want to do, but you can at least show something. You were nervous. You went on a 4-bogey streak. Like that to me was something, but overall incredible event and excited to be here tonight with you guys.
Ruvy, how'd the week go for you betting DFS recap wise? Anything stand out to you or overall about the tournament other than Brooks and all the comparisons? We'll get to that a bit later, but outside of that, anything stand out or how was your week personally?
It was pretty bad. I enjoyed watching the tournament. So I was heavy Tiger, actually, like we talked about last week. And so Tiger kind of let me down, which I actually had good leverage on him. I mean, Tiger at 15% was pretty good. So obviously there was a lot smarter people than me that didn't play Tiger. So, and then I had a lot of ROM also. So obviously like I always do. So that hurt me. I didn't have a great week in DFS. I didn't have a good week in betting. Spawn made the cut, by the way. And then the Ruby's kind of Stanley had a really bad second round. And then we knew Duffner was a shot in the dark. And then Piercy made the cut and did pretty good for his value. But other than that, I liked the tournament. It was very good. Like I said, we all wanted that to make it a game. I think what stuck out for me though is I really think, and we'll get back into this later, obviously, but I think that Jordan Spieth is a lot closer to winning than people are even talking about. And I know he got third. He was way back, but he looks a lot closer to winning than not winning, in my opinion, than he was 2 months ago. So we'll get into that later though, but that's all for me.
Tambo, how'd your week wound up?
Well, it wasn't terrible. I was lucky. FanDuel saved me a little bit, and then some showdown, we'll say, on Sunday was pretty good as well. So on FanDuel was the real shot. I was in the big $44. I actually ended up getting 6th and 11th. Two trackers, one with Brooks and DJ, one with just DJ. Made them early in the week and went with them and turned out okay. The 3K was tough. I had a nice 5 out of 6. But the problem is when your one missing guy is John Rahm, the one you paid the most money for, it doesn't turn out too well normally. So didn't get anything done there. Cashed one of my 2 in the 555, and I did all right in the millie, but I think I got back like 65%. So looking forward to the next one, the $100 buy-in millie maker with 33,000 people for the U.S. Open. That'll be a good one, I think.
Yeah, I have that on my list to kind of discuss in a little bit when we get to the contest. Obviously, for me, it was a weird tournament. I get to Friday night, I'm kind of analyzing lineups. I had Rahm as well. I did not play the 3180 this week, but I had him in. I think I did the 777. That was really the only big one I did. I went more basic, cut way back on exposure. Talked to some guys about it. I mean, I'm on a cold streak, right? And so there's no reason to believe, let's go put in 5 times that I normally do, just because it's a major, let alone a very tough major to handicap or talk, 160 guys, 70-ish, 75-ish, we think are going to make the cut. Very loose pricing in some of the key areas. So you miss one thing and you're dead. And I just didn't feel like putting a lot of money in something like that, especially being, and when I say cold streak, I talked about it last week. I've been on the edge, so I haven't been, dead fucking last every week, which would have made me less, anxious to get into it, but just bad breaks all over the place. And then I get the Friday night, I have 0 Brooks, right? So I faded Brooks all week. He was my last call. I was going DJ or Brooks, and at 11 p.m. Wednesday night, I took DJ, finished out the lineups, and moved on. So I wasn't mad that Brooks was doing what he was doing. It is what it is. It wouldn't have changed my big lineup because I like you, I went with Rahm and balanced. But I had one lineup with DJ, Matsu, Cantley, Wallace, Casey, and I can't remember the 6 off the top of my head, but it was okay. I wasn't even near making money Friday, and Saturday really wasn't making money. So I was like, well, I got one little runner up there. I got a chance. Felt good about Showdown. Actually went a little larger on Showdown Sunday than I normally do because I really felt I was on the tournament. I had handicapped it well. My betting matchups were doing tremendous. Way up on matchups, covered all the losses on props bet, almost times 2. So went in on Showdown, and then I had a tournament day 2 Sunday, and I was paying no attention to DraftKings. I saw that the field was playing tough, the wind was picking up, but not paying attention at all. And I think one of you guys had messaged me or Bucks, and in the Slack, people were saying we're rooting for you, and I was like, what do you mean rooting for me? And because I had no intention, because it was just Brooks was 26, 7, 8% across the board, and so I thought best case, I thought I could break even on the week, and all of a sudden I'm in 9th on the $150 3 max. I'm up there in Mayo's. I'm in the top 50 of the millie at one point, and I'm like, Jesus, what? I didn't expect this, but DJ, Wallace, Matsu, and Cantley at that moment was 2 through 5. So basically I had the nuts without Brooks, and, it finished great. I mean, like you said, the last 3 holes was very tilting. For once, it broke my way, which I didn't think it would, because when Matsu decided to, fucking half-ass a fucking putt on 18 and 3-putt again, I thought I was dead, which he's done to me over and over, and I continue to go back to him. I don't know why, but I'll stand by it, though, because if he ever finds out a way to putt, if he Luke lists this week, he wins the damn tournament. He probably would have.
Well, he actually, if you look at his stats, he actually putted well for once. His tee to green game went to crap, which is weird for him. But sorry, Gup, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. But yeah, round 4, his putter wasn't at least what I saw. I didn't watch much, but it wasn't. It just infuriated me, especially on 18. I thought I was dead because at the exact same moment that Matsu bogeyed, list birdies, which for some God knows reason we can't watch it on TV in the fucking year 2019, but we don't get to see Luke list. We get to watch, Brooks highlights from Friday again for the 19,000th time, but we can't watch. We can't watch
turning away the kiss.
Yeah, so Luke list makes a birdie. I'm like, I'm dead. And I literally in that swing dropped down like $15,000, and I just quit. I thought it was over, and then I saw list bogeyed 18. I thought, oh, maybe that'll get me back in. Well, the big key, which is a shocker to me, is DJ was the only guy, I believe, that got the under all rounds in the 60s bonus.
Yep.
Yeah. So he gets the bonus, and that's what got me back up. And I T second. I didn't get duped. We just happened to get it in the 153 max, jump back up in the Mayo, and wind up, winning, all in $24,000, net about 20, which I've mentioned. It gets me just barely in the black on the year. So I'm not bragging. I'm not saying it's great, but it was an emotional-ish type moment, just because when you grind this hard, and I'll get into it later on the final thoughts, to have something break your way and to be able to talk about trusting the process and grinding out and not over, reaching when you don't need to, bankroll management. It was a good overall Sunday, and I was glad the community also had a really well week. With that, the Listener League, Jeff Town wins it with 417 points, had Cantley, Glover, DJ, Matsu, Stinson, Wallace. So very balanced, solid line there. Had DJ, but, pretty balanced overall, but, very low scoring week overall for the most part. So 417 was very solid by him. Just to list some green screens, and it was amazing last night. You never know how it's going to turn out in the Slack, because you can give all the advice all you want. We all have different opinions, but you never know. But Matt Wallace gets his first Fantasy Golf World Championship ticket. That's awesome. Chris Foster, $800 on FanDuel, $914 on DK, huge ROI. Hedge though, $32.50 in the $4.20 max. Great hit. I saw that last night. Stephen K, $444. Shankopotamus, almost $4,000. BM Rogers, $7,000. Kong, $1,300. Almost 3x's money. D-Man Ross, over 2x's money, wins $1,000. Johnny New MZ, $1,300. PK, $3,500. Jammin' Z, $2,400. Mike J0522, $1,300. Mayor JC, Scott Calvin, Alex B, J Rob, Caesar, Knowles, Ian, Go Carolina, DFS, Dane, Ellen Dubs, all these guys all return money on the week. Great, and that's the ones we just saw. A lot of those guys don't like posting on Twitter, which I respect, and we don't beg them to or anything. If they want to shout out, obviously we ask that's great, but I care more about seeing it in Slack. The community is unreal there, and this week was amazing in Slack all the way around. This week for the Listener League, we're going to give away 3 Masters t-shirts to the top 3 there. I just sent the link out earlier. It'll also be in the YouTube now. It'll be on the podcast. It'll be in the audio, iTunes, all that stuff. Find the link, fill it up. Top 3, the money will be there, but we'll also give out Masters tee this week. Any final thoughts on this from both of y'all before we roll into what is the Charles Schwab now for the 17th title change sponsor in Fort Worth? Anything you guys got to wrap up? Tambo, we'll start with you.
I'll say one thing, couple of things quick. One is the best part about Matt Wallace getting the FGWC seat is that his name's Matt Wallace, and he had Matt Wallace in his lineup. So I thought that was incredible. Second thing is Shankopotamus is a badass name. I like that one. So he got some money. And the last thing is Gup is way more humble than I am as far as repping the brand, considering it's Gup's corner. He keeps it pretty quiet. I'll tell you what, all those guys he just listed in 4 figures, more than half them had like $150 or less in. We're talking about building bankrolls. We're talking about putting in small money, getting out what's a large return for them. And when people say, oh, by the way, you must have had all the entries or you had all the money in or whatever, it's only because you play big entries. I didn't start playing 3K tournaments when I came out. I can tell you that right now. You got to build your bankroll. You got to win it up, and then you got to take some shots and risk it from there. These guys are doing it the right way. It's a plug, but I'm saying join today. It's cheap. He got the code for you. It's nothing. Get in. The Slack is fire. Everyone's on top of it. And Sunday came around, like Gup said, you just never know. This Sunday, it was green screens everywhere. And a lot of these investments that they made were very tiny for what they returned. And typically each week we've got more than 5 to 10 people out of the group getting big wins, 4 figures plus. And then there's a lot of other little ones that they say, oh, we're small grinders. We appreciate that, and we're here for everybody. So I'll leave it at that. But I think that's the passion behind it we got to have. And I think you guys, you're here now, which is good. But if you want to get in Slack, it's well worth your money.
Ruvy, anything else? You good?
Preach. Yeah, he got it. Tambo covered it.
I'm always fired up, man. That's why you don't have me on here. Probably
I'm ready. I'm ready,
fire, man. You got to wake up, Ruvy.
I'm awake. I've been awake. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Let's go.
I addressed some of that in the final thoughts, so that's good foreshadowing for later. You know what? One of our deals, and I'll just get to it quick, is I want to empower the guys to have a little more color, a little more feedback, and I felt me hosting would allow that. Call it a little Vincent K. McMahon style when he got behind the tables on WWE, if you will, back in the 90s. And with that, we're having a new format. So we're no more that's the tournament. It's over. So moving forward, we're going to try to be within 10 minutes. We're going to roll to the next week. We're going to try to keep this thing non-major weeks around an hour-ish. There's so much that changes from Monday to Wednesday. There's no point in spending an hour and 15, hour and a half on stuff that is, it's what we have for now, but a lot of us are 2 or 3 hours into our 30-hour research, or whatever you want to call it. And so there's just no point in dragging it out. We want to give shout outs to the crew. We're taking feedback from the Slack. That was one of the things mentioned. We'll hit on our stuff and then we're moving on. And this week, obviously Buck's not being here. We're at the Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. Obviously I'm wearing my hat from there last year. Plan on going back this year. OG John's flying in Wednesday. Got some other guys in the area, Bates, that we'll be there, but I probably won't be there till maybe Friday at the best. We got some work things going. Obviously, I'm going to do a piss poor job of being Bucks for just a second, but go to the site, read his article in depth, first class, as good as it gets on a breakdown. Obviously they go normally Dallas to Fort Worth in the same 2 weeks. Last few years, it's kind of had a break. This one's unusual because they went to New York and now back. So I'm actually surprised to see how strong the field is. There's a lot of U.S. Open qualifying around the area too, so I think that helped. So this is part 2 of the Texas Swing, if you will, up there at the Colonial Country Club. As mentioned, this event has changed sponsors a handful of times. Now the Charles Schwab Challenge, I do believe it's still technically an invitational, even though it's got the title sponsor. It started in 1946. Not only is it unique, and I'm quoting Bucks here, but because of the course and the history, but it's unique because it is one of only 5 tour events that are classified as an invitational. There are a unique set of qualifying criteria, and then there are 12 sponsor invites as well. Fun fact, part of the invitation is called the Champion's Choice. The winner, this is where the former Colonial champions select 2 young players to compete that otherwise would not be eligible to play. 5 of these selections have gone to win at the Colonial at some point in their career, which is pretty damn cool. All in, this is a Class A event and a tournament high up on everyone's win bucket list. Because of that, I think that's part of the field too. It's a well-respected event. It's been there forever. It doesn't move around. Very good course. I went there last year for the first time. Solid, track and a solid test overall. 7,200 par 70. So a little long being a par 70. Nothing crazy. Bent grass greens. If you don't know what that is, it's to me it's the purest greens you can putt on. It is rare in North Dallas now. Many of the clubs, especially the ones that I have been a part of lately, have switched to Bermuda, especially the new TIFF champion type mix, because it's too damn hard to keep bent greens going when it's so hot. They're very sensitive. So you got to have a lot of especially in Texas or even Oklahoma. But Bermuda tees, fairways, and greens. Fairway width is 28 yards. Average winning score is -15. Average cut is +2. That is the very, very short version of what is a great article on the site from Bucks. And if you're familiar with us, he does it well. I'm not going to try to imitate it. That's about as much as I can go into. My personal stuff, greens should be fast. Hitting fairways and greens are going to be important here. I expect the rough to be thick. There's been a lot of rain in North Texas, Oklahoma, even down here. And I'm in San Antonio if you don't know that, but potentially could not have as much rollout as you're used to. I'm interested to see some of the feedback on the practice rounds to see that, we're getting report on right now up there. Obviously with the big storms we're rolling through today, historical type flooding and rain in Oklahoma right now, even North Texas. Fort Worth's not getting some of that, but they are getting a little bit of rain, which the big deal out of here is it's hard to control the spin from the rough. And you have very small greens, or at least compared to the tour. And so hitting the fairway to be able to control your spin and approach into these greens is crucial. Bombers aren't really necessarily in play, although some have done well, but you've also had guys like Zach Johnson win this. So there's no like prototypical, bomb and gouge, or I think anybody can kind of win this tournament, which makes it kind of unique and fun in the sense that, it's a setup to test the whole part of the game. And so, I think it's going to be a good, fun tournament. It was great last year watching it. Brooks made a charge on Sunday, but Rose was unconscious, especially on the greens, couldn't miss and played very well to win the tournament. Very small chance of rain Thursday. If it does hit, maybe could do a little much, but not much at all. And after that rain, if it hits or doesn't hit Thursday, it's a gorgeous week, mid 80s, or low 90 type temperature, wind about normal for this area. Going to be beautiful after that rain. We'll keep an eye on it and talk about it Wednesday if it becomes prominent. But the big deal is as we saw at the Byron, there's been a lot of rain here, and the course could be a little soft. I'll look at pressers and reading articles and stuff leading into Wednesday to see how the course is playing. We actually got a couple guys that are on site as well, feeding us some info in Slack. Another reason to get in there. For me personally, this is a above average scoring tournament, 525 to 551, the GC Cup last year. As we just heard, 417 won last week. So 100 points above that, but nothing crazy like a Sony Open. For me personally, a break-even tournament. Literally, I look back every week, but I lost $12.83, and I had four figures in play. So literally broke even over the whole week. So I did rely upon some of my notes from last year because I felt I did do it right. I just had a couple breaks not go my way. This is also the brutal Kevin Na chip in on 18 after arguing with his caddy to cost me a big first-round leader cash that I still remember to this moment. Ruvy, what are your stats you're looking at this week with all that considered?
Yeah, I'm gonna start out with tee to green. I think tee to green is very important this week, like it is every week. And then I'm gonna kind of go off greens and regulation gained. I've got ball striking in there as well. We obviously know ball striking is important. We use that every week, I think. I know that you do. I pretty much do as well. I've got approach in there. I think the par 4 scoring it with it being a par 70 is important this week. And then if I'm looking for a proximity range, I'm looking for that 175 to 200 range right now. That'll be a little less, obviously, but I think that's where I've seen most of the shots come in. That'll vary by player, obviously, but going back to Kisner, what's Kisner good at? What's Rose good at? These guys are all great ball strikers, and they can get hot with the putter. So I think the short game is important. I think around the green could be important here this weekend. That'll come up with one of our other guys later, obviously, but that's what I'm pretty much looking at right now.
Tambo, what do you got your eyes on?
Mix of both of what you guys said. I'd say Ruvy hit on the stats there, what he said. I was going to add around the green that he mentioned because obviously it's a little bit smaller greens than normal, but I don't think it's all about that. I think what you said is more important when it comes down to it with the weather. That rough is likely to be thick, and it's probably just going to be that fairways and greens. There's bombers that, like last week, there's bombers that can be accurate, and we'll talk about a big one at the top here, but it won't know what he's going to do this week. But what I'm saying is that I still look at the ball strikers, right? I'm still looking at strokes game ball striking because I want the guys that are going to be able to play it and that tee to green game front to back to front and not have to worry about them being off into the woods. So there's a couple of interesting guys we'll talk about as we get into it here, but I think that's going to be a topic of discussion for this week and a big one at that.
Yeah, not a lot different. I definitely, again, Monday night. I'll listen to presser, stuff like that. But I don't see how the rough can't be really, really thick right now. I played a tournament this past weekend, not near as much rain as what Dallas has gotten, and it's just even my grass right now, it's as green as it could be because we just had way more rain than you normally have at this time of year, especially in Texas. So it's very thick. That's the point of the green doesn't matter, but thick. I don't expect them to cut it down by any means. They normally like to play it up a little bit and force you towards the fairways, and it's going to be even more important this year. So greens and reg and fairways gain to me are number one, number two, with the staple of ball striking approach always in my model. I'm on around the green. I do think it could potentially play a little harder than normal, and depending on the weather and see what happens as it warms up. But I do have a little bit of bogey avoidance in there. But heavy on the first two, greens and reg and fairways gain for sure. The only other thing that kind of could, go under the radar, maybe not on the radar, but it is bent grass green putting. And so I will have, in my models kind of pulled some of that in. It's a unique green that they don't get to play a lot of on the tour just because of how they, where they go around. It's not, on there a ton, especially this kind of bent. So I'm bringing that into the model. I'm going to look at it. I'm not, as with putting every week, it's not going to be a do or die for me by no means, but I am going to look at, some splits on bent compared to even Bermuda or Poa. I don't really care about, but Bermuda and bent's big in this time of the year. So with that, we're kind of going, like I said, new style. So we're calling the next segment the Dirty Dozen. No more locks, flocks, and flops. I felt like that was getting to the point where we just kind of got to the same. We didn't really get a lot of info out to you guys, and I want to make sure we're doing that and to show what else we have to offer when you come behind the scenes. Pour the curtain back on the content. So what we're going to do there is there's 4 tiers: 9K and above, 7,600 to 8,900, 7,500 or less, and then the last tier, 3 picks in each of those, and then our last 3 picks to make the full dozen is 1 flop, which is a price. It can be any price. It's just who you think someone that won't return value, just a pure flop, like it's called. Then a fade, which could be a guy you really, really like, or you think his game is there. You just fade him because of ownership or because of course setup or whatever reason. Just had a baby, his wife's kicking his ass, whatever it is, just a pure fade. Doesn't mean you hate him. It means it's a spot you want to fade. And then a sleeper, which is the same as always, 6,900 or less. Then we'll get into some rapid fire and a little round table wrap up, and then we'll get straight to betting. So the first tier, 9K or above. Tambo, give me 3 guys you're on in that range right now.
Might be unique, but right now I'm listening to the 3 guys, and none of them are the top 3. So, like I say, I might have to bring him back around later. I'm sure Ruvy will bring at least one of them up, but I'm starting with my boy Ricky Fowler. 10-5, get a little bit of savings from, I don't count Spieth, so get a little bit of savings from Rahm, I should say. You go down, but he didn't turn out too well at the PGA, but ball striking, he's a good putter. The par 4s, he's number 1 in the last 50 rounds on strokes gained par 4. He can put up DK points if we get a little bit of scoring. We should have mentioned that earlier. Last week was a placement points event. This week, it could be 12, it could be 15. I mean, there's still going to be some scoring in there. But I want a guy that can keep it, bogey avoidance. You talked about that. So we're all on the same page. Stats wise, I think Ricky's a good point to bring up there. And I think people this week are going to want to go above to Rahm or Rose, or they're going to want to go down to like Molinari and below. So I'll start with him. From there, we can move to Paul Casey, $9,300. I'm not sure why he's down there. Like, to me, I get it. He's not a world beater. He doesn't win a lot of tournaments, but he's the Valspar king, you want to call him. But for that price, he's going to, he makes cuts. Hasn't shown his best lately. So maybe people will be off him a little bit. But again, if you go back to the stats, ranks out highly for me. He's a ball striker. He's got good long irons. His strokes gain approach is solid. Again, putter's always a worry, but you never know. And on bent grass greens, from what I can see in early research stages, he's actually done pretty well on them. So he's my next one. And then filling in for Bucks, like you said. So I got to bring the Jason Kokrak fire, because he was off him one time this year, and now he's back on him, and it was the right timing. So I don't know if he's back on him. I shouldn't say that. I'm back on him $4. Let's put it that way. So Jason Kokrak, another guy that pops up here heavy. Even when you extend it beyond just the last 3-4 tournaments, you're still getting the stats, ball striking, approach, par 4, long irons, DK points. To me, again, I don't know how popular he's going to be at 8,900, and there is some other guys in there that I like, but those were the 3 that popped out to me the most for this week. First glance, again, tune in Wednesday, E9. We'll talk more there, but to me, for right now, these ones are pretty much secured.
Ruvy, who you got?
I'll start off with the guy that Tambo mentioned. I love Rahm again this week. If you rate out through the last 100 and last 50 rounds and last 24 rounds, he's really high in my models. He's been fading off a little bit lately, but I think he gets it back on track again this week. I think we've discussed this, Tambo, that either Rahm wins by 7 this week or I think it's either he wins by 7 or misses the cut. I'm going to hope for the win by 7, but I love Rahm because Spawn's not in the field, so I can't. That's my other love, and he's not in the field. So Rahm to start. I like X, and you didn't mention X, Tambo, but I do like X. X ranks 6th in my model. The last 4. If I go to the last 24 rounds, he ranks 2nd. You just never know when he's going to show up. He was hanging around at the PGA for a while, really close to top 10. I think X is close to another win, and he just kind of pops up. And I hope he's not that popular this week, but I do like Xander Schauffele. The last guy I do like, I love Paul Casey as well, so I'm going to get on that with you there. So I have him in my last. You go back every round, last 24, last 100, last whatever. His worst rating is 4th, and that was last 50 rounds. So, Paul Casey for sure is trending towards a very core-ish type play for me. How about you, Gup? What are you looking at?
Yeah, a lot of the same. Obviously, I'll be interested to see where the industry rolls. My number 1 rated guy, and it'll be a theme of the show, is Paul Casey. Out of the top up here, other than Rose, one of the best putters on this kind of surface. I got a little sleeper later on that's really good on this surface. Ricky, obviously, he's number 1 on this. He's putted on Ben a lot. I like Ricky, but Ricky's a little down in my model rankings, so forth. And plus, I feel being the 4th price that he's going to be fairly highly owned, but Casey may wind up, now I'm listening, be super high owned. I'm fairly close on a position to say I'll just get leverage on Casey wherever I need it. He's kind of that guy this week. If he's going to be 25, I'll have 45, and make sure I have my leverage and just roll with it. I'm not going to let the ownership type me off him because I'm that all in on him right now. I like Rahm. Bounce back week, missed the cut. That was one thing I forgot to say. My 11-man make the cut parlay went 10-1, and my only loss was Garcia missing it by 1 stroke. So that was a little brutal. I think I blacklisted Garcia for the rest of the year. I don't care what model he looks great in. I can't stomach his.
He's weird to figure out this year, man.
Yeah, I'm done.
What is it, like 7 majors now or something in a row?
7 in a row, yeah.
Yeah, but he sucked ass everywhere else too. Not just me. He's always gonna have the stats, but he's not. I mean, he's like the anti-Brooks. Like he's gonna stat pop all over the place and just doesn't fucking show up. So Rahm, I'm not. I mean, yeah, he missed a cut, but it was a tough deal. And great point to you, Tambo. And I was gonna bring it up in a little bit different way, but you kind of nailed it. Like, yeah, we can get a 12, 14 under this week, which people will say, well, that's what Brooks was. Well, right, but we had 6 guys finish under par. And then you take Brooks and DJ out and extremely low scoring week. So this week you'll have a 12, 14 under window and you'll have 40 guys under par. So that's what Tambo was alluding to, was much higher scoring in general, much tighter pack up there. You had Brooks and everybody else. And then Sunday you had Brooks, DJ, and everybody else. And literally, you almost wanted guys that went off early, because the later the guys went off, the more you were scared shitless that your guy was going to shoot at 80. So, it different week this week, and that's a good point. My last guy is Molinari.
There was literally 6 out of 6s that went almost backwards.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Normally you're supposed to have, someone said, I thought it was funny, he said on Twitter, he said, how am I getting punished for having the most PHRs? Normally that's what you want. You say, I got 46 left. He only has 20, but he has 20 less. He has 26 less than you, but they went off first thing in great conditions and actually scored, which we play a scoring game, and people forget that oftentimes, right? You don't always need the best of the best. It doesn't always matter. The optimals will have the best scoring players in it.
Right. And that's where I got lucky on my deal is the 2 guys I got off early, had 2 of the better rounds, got in the house, and then other than Matsu, who technically survived, but really his finishing points is really what saved him. But, my other 3 guys, Cantley, Wallace, and DJ, had 3 of the better rounds for the late, as far as off the top of my head. Yeah. And so just perfect mix for me. And I know it's luck, but I've taken plenty of bad luck this year, I can assure you. So I'll take it. But, and I like Molinari. I was off him 100% last week. He kind of proved me wrong. I jumped on him Sunday. Bad decision there.
Kind of proved you right.
Yeah. But, he hasn't played here. I assume he's doing this as his one, kind of like Rose did last year, and Rose showed up first time ever and wins it, right? Molinari has a game that this course will make him feel comfortable. Now, my biggest deal with him will be, does he get any steam in the industry? I'm not going to play where I'll play Casey Chalky and I'll just go leverage. If Molinari is going to pick up steam, I'll move elsewhere. I just don't do that. I don't do a Chalky Molinari, but I feel with the way pricing is and everything is up there, he'll kind of get jumped over. They'll go, Ricky X to your point, or go way down to Casey, or Kisner, because he's got good history, or maybe, some of those guys. And so Poulter, Usti, there's a ton in the lower 9s. And I think Molly's just not a sexy DFS play, no matter how well he does. In the same way as I was last week, I was off him. I could potentially go to him this week if I can get some leverage. If I can get 12% and I'm overexposed to him, I don't mind him. Although the guys you mentioned, I definitely don't mind as well. Ruvy, let's let you kick off the second tier. 7,600 to 8,900. Who you got?
Yeah, first one, I'm going to go with a little bit of a surprise on this first one. I think his pricing is going to keep a lot of people down. I've heard some talk of Sabatini, and Kokrak's right above him, but Emiliano Grillo is popping right now for me. Not a very good putter, as we know, but he's really been coming alive with his approach game lately, and his putting hasn't been awful, but his tee to green game has been pretty fantastic. Top 25 at the PGA. He really hasn't had a good finish all year. His only top 10 was at the CIMB back in October. So Emiliano Grillo, though, I think that this is a good spot for him. His pricing is way up there. I think that's going to keep a lot of people off him. My next one, I'm going back to Joel Damon, by the way. He had a terrible Sunday last week, and he might be getting a little tired, but I'm going back to Joel Damon. I'm going to stick with him. He's been pretty good. Obviously, I think he's pretty close to an auto DF or auto FRL at this point, right? He's an auto first round leader bet at this point.
I'm sure. I'm sure he'll be highly on this week on first round leader.
Yeah, first round leader. I'm sure he'll be big in there. I'm sure he'll be big in the showdown first round. But Joel Damon for me is another guy that really pops out for me at 8,200. I think that pricing could keep some people down. The last guy I want to mention is a former winner here that hasn't had a top 25 or hasn't had a top 20 in forever. I'll look it up right now, but his last top 20 was. He had one at the Heritage, I guess. But Zach Johnson's game has been coming alive. His last 2 tournaments, he's putted really awful, which for Zach Johnson is not very typical. He putts well on bent, by the way. So I do like Zach Johnson. His tee to green game has been very, very good the last three tournaments, and his approach game has been good. So Zach Johnson for me would be my last one there. I think he's a Texas guy, plays well in Texas. He's not a Texas guy, but he plays well in Texas.
Tambo, who you got in this range?
Yeah, sorry, backtracking there. I got excited on Kokrak. I jumped the gun. It was 9K.
I wasn't going to say
talked about. You got to call me out, Ruvy. If I'm this fired up and I'm making mistakes, you got to call me out. So it was Poulter. was my third guy, 9,100. I always love Poulter. I think his game's been a lot better lately. We've seen more things out of him, and his approach game can be strong. He's good around the greens. The putter gets going. He's just a good natural putter. So obviously on pure bent, he sees the line, he putts it. If his putter gets going, this is a guy that holds his own, bogey avoidance, and can be there. And then if he gets hot, he can take off and win the thing. He won the Houston Open, a couple of years ago, which is in Texas. So got to have a little love for that and go back to him. So that all that talk to skip Kokrak as my first one here. My second one you just talked about, Ruvy. I don't think he's going to be as less owned as you think, and it's Emiliano Grillo. It's another guy that in these types of events, if you're not on him, I think it's a mistake, because unless he gets some crazy ownership, you just want to play the ownership game. He's another guy, fairways, greens, hangs around, bent a little bit better. If he can get it going, it's another guy that I like. So at 8,700, I hope you're right, but I've got him in a couple, hand builds that I did this morning, just whipping things up. And then the other guy that I like here is still Scott Piercy. I think people are still going to overlook him. Last week, they jumped on him. I shouldn't say it like that. The people still jumped on him, but not to what I thought they would, except in the super high stakes. I know he's a little higher owned than what we all expected, but at 6,500, I felt like he should have been a lot higher owned, considering that price and what he did to open up your lineup. And if you go look again, still now he's in that range with Piercy, with Grillo, Fitzpatrick, who you'll hear some names and some people talk about out there. Like you said, above and below, you've got Usti, Kokrak. Down, you've got Ruvy, Palmer, Dahmen, all those guys. Piercy, ball striking, doesn't make a lot of bogeys, as we just saw a couple weeks ago. He also, last point, was solid at the RBC Heritage, which, while not really comparable, it's not a corollary course or anything, but the idea of tree-lined, thinner, smaller fairways, you don't want to get in a lot of trouble there. And got to be accurate. He's a guy that can do that. So I'm back on the Scott Piercy train as well.
Yeah, I think, and I wrote this, I think, in Gup's Final Thoughts last week, that I thought Piercy would be everybody thinks what everybody thinks, so they go opposite to think what everybody thinks, and it winds up being what it turned out. And that happens a lot, especially that I don't care what ownership tools you're using or going. A lot of people base it off of podcasts and stuff like that are recorded, especially on a major week early, but even a given week, Monday. I mean, yeah, I have my opinions coming onto the show, and I don't share my rankings with you guys. I wait till afterwards, so we all have our unbiased thoughts and opinions. But shit's going to change in 48 hours in golf, and so if you're basing ownership projections and stuff off of what people said Monday at 5:00, that's difficult. And I thought Piercy would wind up being, he got hyped up. Everybody moved, tried to outsmart and outthink the outthink, and it wound up, being opposite. So I definitely agree there. So going to be mimicking, which is crazy because I don't share anything with you guys, and people probably think we will, but Kokrak's, he's fourth for me overall in my whole model. He's my freebie of the week. I do have a bet in on him. I released my bets earlier. I kind of locked and loaded. He's got a hit or miss history here. 2 made cuts, 2 missed cuts. Last year, not bad, T32. But the form right now is just as good as he's probably had in his career. T7 at Valero, tough track. T16 at RBC, tough track. T23 last week, tough track. And this is flirting with tough. I don't exactly. Bucks was here, he'd be able to tell us where it ranks as far as toughness on the PGA Tour, but stats wise, he's number 1 in my model. So I think he's a live play to win this week. I think if he's going to try to get a win and get over that hurdle for him, this could be a play for him. I love it. He's average putting in the splits, but for him, it's actually a boost because he struggles elsewhere sometimes. So, if he can, find the line and putt decent, I definitely don't mind him. Could potentially be chalky. We'll see. But I don't mind him at all. Next guy, I don't know if he'll be chalky or not. This is one of the first tournaments I got to watch him at last year quite a bit, and it's Abraham Manser, obviously. Little Boomer Sooner love there, 7,600, right on the number where we're at. He's 5th in my stat model, 17 in rolling stats, so his or long firm to short firm. He's all over the. I mean, he's just looking really good. He is 6th in my putting model. He's played a lot of golf in this area, a lot of bent, so he's familiar with it. Coming off a T16 last week, a T59 2 weeks ago. So for the price range, I just love Answer. I hope he kind of goes under the radar. We'll see. I don't mind taking a stab at him at 7,600. Don't have to have as big of return as I do elsewhere. And then the last one, I think both you guys have already mentioned, is Dahmen. Obviously he's a little close to my heart. He was in my run of last summer. And that's going to be a theme here in a minute. There's several of these guys that I was reminiscing on earlier. So I felt like this tournament has some good omens for me already, but he's there. His putting stats aren't great, but they're probably never great. But the rest of his game is there. I love him. T20 here last year. So it tells me, even though the putting stats aren't great, they're obviously good enough last year that he did well. He's a deep dive guy for me. So I want to see, where did he get his strokes last year? I do all that in the deep dive, and the community knows that when I roll that out. But, T16 at the RBC, a 2nd at Wells Fargo. Obviously, we saw that ball striking approach, all that's there for him. I love him. He's one of those that could be I'm going to go on no matter how chalky he could get, but maybe he's not. I don't know if he's to that chalk level yet, but he's definitely popping for me. I'm going to go ahead and lead the last tier before we get into our flop, fade, and sleeper. 7,500 or less. Number 3 in my overall model, number 6 in stats, number 4 in history here, number 5 in rolling stats. Literally just looks really, really, really low priced in the situation. Coming off a win at Valero here in San Antonio. Watched him live a lot of the way. Corey Connors, 7,200. I don't get the pricing really. Even he made the cut last week. T64 was cheap. This course sets up for him. I think his game will suit it pretty well. He struggles around the green a little bit, but if he's hitting greens and fairways, his approach, bogey avoidance, ball striking, he's all there. So for 7,200, I think it's just a huge steal for me. Definitely on my short list at the 100-1 odds as well. I don't mind that number by any means. Next guy, Russell Knox, been on him off and on last several weeks. Top 10 overall in the model, top 7 in stats, 3rd in my rolling stats. So his form's coming in pretty good for me. And what I'm looking at, 30th in putting. So, seems to like the bent split wise. He's doing well there. Here he's played well. So he took some time off. He played in 14 and 15, took 2 years off, played last year. All 3 years, top 25 for Russell Knox. So again, for 7,400, I don't mind Knox at all. The last one, it's kind of, I'm wondering, can he get back to where he was about a month ago or so? And it's Jim Furyk. I love Jim Furyk. Course where he doesn't have to, he's not going to get beat off the tee as far as bombers. He can plot his way around 7,300. He makes a cut, makes a little run. He's live. Recent form has just not been there since really the Valero, and even before that, it was hot. One of the hottest golfers in the country, but a little bit recent form may scare some people off. But I don't mind him here. He's gonna pop in models fairly for his price range. I think all over the place, but I'll take a few stabs at him at 7,300, depending on the player pool I'm building. But he's definitely on my short list to take a look at. Tambo, where are you at in this lower range of pricing, 7,500 or less?
Yeah, I liked your answer call, by the way, because he's actually not only. I'm glad you said that because I hadn't dug deep enough onto splits yet, but he's actually been quoted as saying he loves pure bent grass.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me he actually does well on it. So that's maybe, obviously it's a correlation. I love when I win a DFS tournament, I love DFS golf. When I'm losing, I hate it. So it would make sense that he's popping there, but I like that call, but he was just outside the range. I mentioned him sort of at the top of the show. Our boy Phil, I'm a glutton for punishment there, Benny on with $7,500. Man, it's got to click someday for this guy. It just has to. It's insane with him, but I don't mind it. You guys know, most do, that all I play is GPPs, so that's the expectation that comes with it going in. I'm not going to go crazy with him, but I do think he's got quite a good price on him. The second one was actually same as you, and I didn't think you would go there. I didn't think a lot of people were going to be on Connors this week. I hope that's not a theme to come, but he's been on fire. Gained strokes on approach in 7 out of his last 8. Obviously, we know he's got the upside is there, and on top of that, he just won in Texas. So, like you said, he can obviously play well here. I think a lot of people thought he came out of the scene or something, like he'd never been in a tournament before. So it was crazy for a Monday Q to win. They just don't realize how it actually works, and sometimes that's just how you end up having to get into a tournament, right? So, lot of love from my Canadian guy Connors. And then my last one's a little bit off the wall in a sense. I want to say 2, but I know I can't, so I'll pick one. But I'm going to say 2 anyway because I'm that guy. 2 guys. ZJ Light. So Zach Johnson, you mentioned Ruvy. I like it, but I like his light version, which is Ollie Schneiderjans playing with Zach Johnson's old caddy. And this is a course where ZJ's done extremely well, and I know ZJ's the much better golfer. You can't compare that right now. But Ollie's still young, and if you look at his results this season in 3 of the last 4, he's actually popped in quite a few events where he can pay off that salary. So I like Ollie, and the reason I want to mention the second one is because I'm going to call him Jordan Spieth Light, and that's Kramer Hickok.
I could get
a Texas boy as well that I expect to pop here a little bit. We've seen him showing up, a little bit lately. Again, these are darts for a GPP, but in my opinion, these are 2, of those guys you're looking for, boom or bust. Maybe don't put them in the exact same lineup, but you see like a Luke List at the PGA Championship. We know Luke List has more talent than these guys, generally speaking, but in that PGA Championship, he was your boom bust guy, and you see him up in the main lineups. These are my guys this week for that range, Gup. That's what I've got.
I can get behind that Hickok one, the Ollie one. Just can't stand the guy. Can't wear a hat. Like, wear a hat, dude. But but that's neither here nor there. My first guy, Jimmy Walker. I think he's been coming alive a lot lately. He made the cut at the PGA, a tight course. Jimmy Walker's been playing very well tee to green lately. I'll be on Jimmy Walker this week. I think he's got the game for it. He's played well in Texas historically, and he's bent grass splits are okay. He's not a great putter on bent grass, but he's been a hit or miss putter lately. So I think he'll be okay on the bent grass. My second one, I don't want to go down too far, but I love this guy so much that he will be my below 7,000 also, but I'll get a different one though. But Kevin Streelman at 6,900 is coming in on fire, in my opinion. For him, I think Kevin Streelman, to your point, the RBC Tambo with the tight tree line fairways, Kevin Streelman always plays well at the RBC. I think Kevin Streelman fits me very well this week. The last guy I want to mention this is kind of an off the wall, doesn't fit stats. I don't know what to do with him, but I'm surprised you haven't mentioned him yet, Gup, but Joaquin Niemann has been getting better, in my opinion. I think that he's worth his bent putting stats, by the way, are much better than the rest of his putting. So Joaquin Niemann, I know he missed the PGA, missed the cut, but he was 38th at the Wells Fargo. I think that's more indicative of what he'll be like this week. So I like Joaquin Niemann, actually, which is weird.
Yeah, I got a piece on him in a minute. Roll us right into a flop, a fade, and a sleeper, Ruvy. Who do you got in those categories?
Yeah, my flop is going to be Kevin Kisner. The dude hasn't take out the match play, which we all know the dude's a freaking bulldog, okay? His last top 20 was at the RSM in November. He just hasn't been good. Like, I mean, I know he was excellent at the match play, obviously. It was fantastic. But that was his last top 20. He even said that he was going to be bad at the PGA, and he was bad at the PGA. But he even said that. So I don't really take much into account for that. But Kevin Kisner is a former winner here, I know. But he just hasn't been good in my model. And I like a lot of other guys around him. He's surrounded by Paul Casey, Ian Poulter, even Bryson DeChambeau. But my sleeper is going to be, if I already gave you Streelman, but I'm going to go with back to another one of our favorites, Gup, Texas boy, Douglas Gim. I like Dougie Gim again this week. He did well for us at our last one. As I had him as a Ruvy, you had him as a sleeper cup. Doug Gim for me there. And then my fade right now is probably going to be so it's always tough to tell right now, but my fade right now, I'm leaning towards Ryan Palmer. He always gains steam in Texas. And my fade right now would be Ryan Palmer.
Tambo, who you got?
Yeah, so just to clarify too, new format you said, right? So the flop is going to be any price but won't return value, right? And so we've got that, and then we got the fade is maybe because of ownership or whatever. So my flop was easy. I don't know how should be a lock across the board is Jordan Spieth. 10-9. I get it. I'm with Ruvy on the fact that, Ruvy mentioned earlier to me that he thinks he's closer than we think. What I will say is this: one, the obvious, don't need to repeat it. Everyone's going to talk about it in the industry, so this will be the only time. But he gained something like 10 strokes putting. It was his best performance ever in his career putting. That's fine. That to me is not the point, because that's Spieth. If he can do it for a year plus, which we saw him do, he can easily turn it on for a couple weeks, and he's got some good history here. And I get all that. His driver was clicking, whatever. But people are forgetting a little bit is that it's still a price reflective game. So 10-9 to me is just too much. There's too many better options. You mentioned guys at 91, 93, 82, like prices like that are better than him. And then on top of that, he actually does play a lot better in majors. So, if he wants to keep messing up and come in low at majors and people don't want to get on him, that to me is a better spot to jump back on board. So I'll put him down as my flop for the price. He's just not going to make it for me. Ruvy had the same fade. I hope he gets a little bit of ownership. And Kisner, I'll probably be a few lineups with him if I do like that sort of balanced build or a one-off or something to be unique to make sure that if I have him, I've differentiated my lineup. But it'll be extremely underweight. Like Brooks last week, I had at 5%. I had some lineups because he's just the dude that fit to finish it out. And, of course, some early made lineups. Kisner's in that spot this week. If he fits, I'll press the button just to have him in one or two. I'll probably do that with Spieth in one or two. But I'm talking like that's just because I have so many lineups. They're in way less than what they should be. And my sleeper, shout out OG John. We were just talking about this beforehand. I was already liking Nick Taylor this week, popping a little bit at 6,800. And then OG John sends it to me that, because I mentioned him, he sends it that he actually just qualified for the U.S. Open today, and he went bogey free on 36 holes in that tournament to collect his ticket, so to speak. And that's why I love DFS golf, because it's so close to what we do every day or every week in DFS. He went in the qualifier, he won the Saudi ticket, and now he's in the big 3180 or whatever, the Thunderdome, if you want to call it, the U.S. Open. He's going to be playing for the big one. So bogey free there on what supposedly was a pretty similar course. I'll take a flyer on him at 6,800. Who you got, Gup?
Yeah, I mean, to the point, the deal on Kisner, this can be industry driven for me to a point. This does suit his game, right? He doesn't have to struggle off the tee.
Yeah, definitely.
His splits on bent are as good or better at times than Bermuda, which surprised me because he played a lot on Bermuda, but definitely can putt, right? And so I expect him to be high owned, but that'll be something to come. But my flop, it's Spieth, and it's why I defined it the way I did was the value part, right? So at 10-9, you really, I mean, he's got at least top three to return the value. What do we mean by that? It means, if you have a standard scoring or a deviation of X amount of points, then each dollar you spend on a player, you're expecting X amount of points back. So the optimal lineup would be if I spent $50,000 and let's say it's 600 points is the optimal scoring for the week, then every dollar you spend on a guy, you expect to get X back. And so when you spend 10-9 on Spieth, he's third in pricing, top three, top five scoring, DK scoring, not finishing the tournament. He's got to get there. Now, is this a spot where you can play him if he's going to come in 5-8%? I don't think he will because of his course history here. I think it'll play. He's in Texas. I think he'll flirt at least closer with the 10% deal. I imagine most industry sharps or industry people will talk about the price is just too much for where his game is right now. The lean back on the putting part that, he was lights out last week, which I don't care about. It is what it is. I care more about, I just don't know if I can see him, top 3 or top 5. And I like other spots better. My original fade, I'm not going to switch now because, it's what I wrote down, but I don't know if we've said his name yet. So I'll be interested to see where this gained steam throughout the week. It was Justin Rose. He's got to win, right? He's got to win or top 3. I know for a fact he only played this last year to check the box on the old 4-year rotation deal. And so now he's got to come back because he won it. I guess he didn't have to, but, defend the title. I'm not saying he shows up and doesn't care. I'm in the camp of always saying that guys, they show up, they're here to play, right? They're not going to half-ass it. But he's got to win, right? Or he's got to finish top 3 in DK Sport to return that 11-4. I assume a lot of people will just move off of him and go down. But personal just fade of by definition, that's where I'm at with Rose. He's all over. He's going to look great. He's number 1 in my model, so it's not like I don't think he's going to play well. I hope it's a spot where I'm taking leverage on the field, but hell, if I get to Wednesday and he's 10, 12% or being completely overlooked, I don't mind taking a chance on him running it back from last year. But as of now, that's where I was. Sleeper, you already mentioned him, Ruvy Streelman. He's top 10 in my overall model. People will see that here in about 30 minutes when I release it. He stands out, well and above most. The second one, I'm glad the model actually showed it because most people will know that this is a man crush, heart crush, DFS crush for me, and it's Ryan Armour. He's he's top 20 for me this week. $6,100, almost dead men. Form's not great, but he did finish. He made the cut at RBC, he made the cut at Valero. He finished 14th here last year. And the things I'm looking at, and you talk about a guy that can feel comfortable at a course and not feel like he's going to get out, bombed all day long. It's this kind of course. And obviously he liked it last year. I will have some Armour at 61, no doubt about it. Anytime I can play him in a course where I feel comfortable, I'm obviously going to play him. He is a standard FOMO bet, but he might actually make the official card this week at 200-1, as well as Neiman, which we'll get into in a minute. Next segment, kind of finishing out the DFS side, rapid fire. No color, no commentary. I'm going to give you guys a matchup. I'll be the third. Just need to know this is DFS only, not betting, not who's going to win, not just who would you take in DFS. All these guys are within a couple $100 of each other. I'll go Ruvy, then Tambo, then me on each of these. Ruvy, Poulter, or Usti? Who you got?
Poulter.
Tambo.
Poulter.
Agree. Sweep for Poulter. Piercy or Fitz, Ruvy?
God, that was hard for me, but I don't like the guy, but I think I'm going to go Fitz this week.
Tambo, who you got?
I'm going Piercy.
This is a toss-up, too. Both are kind of in my pool right now. First cut, at least. I do like Fitz this week. He's high up there, very close, but I like Fitz. Kim or M? Ruvy, who you got?
Sung Jae, that's my guy. Got to go.
Siwoo or M? Tambo, who you got?
I'm going with him.
I agree. Sweep for Sung Jae. Be interesting to see if he's fired up and reloaded this week.
He's 70-1 this week. We'll get into that, but that's a pretty good price for him.
Yeah, he's coming back. Answer or Hoffman?
Answer.
Same answer.
Answer. Yep. Sweep easy for me. I think he contends this week. I like his game, like where he's at. Benny on or the Rat? Ruvy.
I'm going to go Benny on. The Rat has been playing pretty good, but he gained 14 strokes putting 2 weeks ago. Give me Benny on.
Tambo, who you got?
I mentioned him earlier. I like Benny on.
I do too. I think 7,500 is cheap for him. Be interesting to see where that ownership comes in at. He's underpriced this week, and I think
that's another betting guy that will be interesting later when we get to his number later. By the way,
yeah, but they're both right there in my model. But I think on is who I like. CT Pan or Danny Lee. Lee coming off I was impressed that he fought back after the +6 Friday. But who you got? CT or Danny Lee?
Give me Danny Lee. He impressed me a lot with I didn't know if he would compete with the tight fairways, and he did. He competed. So Danny Lee.
Tambo.
Yeah, I thought you meant KH Lee. I'd be more inclined to play him, but I'll go CT Pan, fairways and greens, coming off a win, feeling good. But yeah, Danny Lee, course history or not here, I'm not feeling that play.
Yeah, Lee's he lives here. He plays that course a lot. He actually plays my course that I was at when I was up there in Dallas. Very familiar with it. Toss up for me. I'd lean Lee, although I think he may get a little bump off of being on with some leaderboards last week. So Pam may be a sleeper, even though he just won. Interesting. Now, KH Lee's in my round table, so we'll get to him in a minute. Tambo.
There you go.
Yeah. So round table will wrap up. If you're new to us, we talk about 2 or 3 guys that none of us has mentioned. We don't know who we're going to talk about. So this is just kind of we get to that point in the week or in the show where we may have missed someone or thought someone else was going to talk about them. So it's just kind of a wrap up of the DFS for each of these guys. And then to end it, I want your stone cold, must play of the week, any price range, any guy, just what we used to call the lock per se, but it was limited to 10K. Just who is a guy you don't care ownership, don't care anything, you're going to play them. Ruvy, kick it off. You got 2 or 3 guys in a lock for me.
All right, my first guy that no one has mentioned so far, and he's usually a popular guy. I would be interested in watching him is Tony Finau. I'm interested in Tony Finau this week. If that guy can drive it, he's putted well on bent grass, being the Masters. He's played well at the Masters, obviously, which is bent grass. So Tony Finau, I'm very interested in him this week. I wanted to mention Sungjae as well, but we had mentioned him in the round table there, or the little picks. But Sungjae is a guy that if you go out historically, the last 50, 100 rounds, he grades out well. He's been a little bit inconsistent lately here, but Sungjae is a guy that I really, really like as well this week. And going back to what we've talked about before, Sabatini is really high priced again. So I'm wondering if that keeps ownership off of him, or people go to that. And then the difference between him and Grillo, I guess, would be my ownership. That might be an ownership play there between Grillo and Sabatini for me. My stone cold lock of the week is going to be John Rahm. I'll just go there, but he won't be my one and done because I can't use him in one and done because I've already used him. But John Rahm would be my pick.
Tambo, any guys left out that you got final thoughts on? And then who's your one play of the week right now?
Kind of. I was wondering when you said Rose looked good, did you mean in stat models or in his flamingo pink shirts and his commercials that he's rocking? Because
I wear those same type of shirts. You've seen it, Tambo. So
you probably would. I like it. No, you do. I'm not talking about those. Those are nice suits that you're wearing that are part of fun when you're going with your boys to the event. This guy's out here having a mid-golf life crisis, pitching clubs. Like, the guy goes and buys a Ferrari when he's 40 or something, or a Corvette to try and be cool again. This guy does that, and now he's wearing Ricky's shirts and trying to take Ricky's commercials. So I'm not sure on Rose. He's the one that him and Rahm are giving me fits up top right now because Rahm is a little rested coming off, not playing well, unfortunately. But before that, we were talking about it, and it was, he was driving the ball long and straight, which, again, your driver is not the be-all, end-all here, but it is a longer par 70s. So if he normally has pretty good approach game. He normally can putt pretty well. Like to me, it's between those two. I'm going to make a decision as the week goes on. Stay tuned for E9. That's going to be the same discussion even when I'm on my podcast with Kenny later. I don't know right now between those two because there's too much to go on. Gup, you mentioned Connors earlier. Won't hit on that again. And then you also mentioned Answer. So the last one I'll bring up and just expand on because Ruvy just mentioned him, but Roy Sabatini at high price. I still like him. I loved him at 9K a couple weeks ago when we knew no one would be on him. I feel like it's going to be that way again. I don't mind having some of these balanced lineups. I think it would be really contrarian to start a lineup with something like Kokrak, Sabatini, Grillo, instead of trying to figure out where everyone's going to be and how they're going to pivot off and can't play them because of this and that. Why not slam them all three and build a really balanced lineup and see how that does when lots of people are going to be going up top for Rahm, Rose, Ricky, Xander, Molly, all these guys.
No, I agree. And I'll hit on that here in a little bit. I agree with most of everything you just said. Who's your lock of the week right now? No, it's Monday, but who's a guy you just can't get your eye off of?
It's probably bad. It's you mentioned him earlier. I think he's going to be yours too. But I don't understand 9,300 for Paul Casey, gutless Euro, whatever you want to say. All this shit. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. That price doesn't seem right for this course. What he sets up to do, and if he comes out and shoots 7 over on the first day, then bury it again. But I'm going to be overweight at 9,300, and nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, for me, I think when you mentioned Fowler earlier, I'm interested to see where he kind of shakes out. DFS, more popular in something like this than most, so could gain leverage. But if he's going to go under the radar, I don't mind playing him. I don't. He's played here before, so there's no. He didn't have to play here, but I think he's wanted to get some form heading into U.S. Open, so I think he's here to play. I got 2 guys kind of right around each other. I know we barely mentioned one. The other one, I don't think we mentioned at all. And he's been playing really, really well, especially for his price at 7,100. Is Brian Stewart. Made 3 straight cuts here: a T24 2 years ago, a T32 last year. Some of those guys that can kind of go under the radar. For 7,100, I don't mind him at all.
He secretly likes Texas a lot, doesn't he?
I think so. He's just been hitting the ball well. He's a guy I'll watch on the replays and stuff. Last 3 or 4 tournaments, gets some chatter, but then he doesn't really gain steam per se. He just kind of mentioned. But Neiman, I'm on. We know that. I'll have at worst case a FOMO bet. Watched him here a lot last year. Had already kind of man crushed him at this point last year at the Masters, and literally followed 90% of his round the first day I went out there. Played well, seemed to like the course. 7,100, I think, is a hair cheap for him in my opinion. Decent putter in this area. I like everything, where his game could be coming. Agree with everything you say. T8 here last year, so it wasn't like he fared bad. You guys already mentioned Kisner, so probably the only other guy that I hadn't heard a peep on, and he's way up there in my model. I feel like he's underpriced, but we didn't mention him at all, so maybe he's not. Never missed a cut here since 2014, a 45th, a 2nd, a 17th, a 48, a 42nd. But at the price 7,900, Snedeker, I don't hate that. He's just kind of there for me, just meh. He's there, but if no one's going to talk about him and I can get him under 8K, I don't mind. I mean, the talent, we know what he can do. And this kind of course where, just hit fairways and greens, and we know he can get as hot as anybody. I don't mind looking at Snedeker come Wednesday after I hear some of the industry. And you're right, Tambo. Yeah, lock's easy. Casey, I'll be all on him. I said it would take something crazy for me to move off by Wednesday. I'll just try to be over leverage. And to your point, I mean, he doesn't even have to win, right? 9,300 allows me to lock.
That's why I like him, because of the price. And like you said, what's going to happen? The worst that we're going to see for estimate wise, I mean, you're the ownership guy, you're doing it, and we're looking off your ownership. If he gets to 25%, is that going to tell me no? That's just going to tell me how much I need to take. Like maybe I'll take 40 then. And yeah, it's 40% of my lineups. I get it, but I think he's fine. Like you said, now the example you brought up earlier was with Spieth. You and I talked about it. That was Hideki a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago when Hideki's 11K. And I stressed this on my pod. I said, you can't be playing him because what has he done to show me that he can win? Yes, if the putter clicks, but if it hasn't for that long, now Jordan, same thing. He could go off and win this thing by 5 strokes just because it's the right place, right time. But if not, at 10-9, that's a lot of work to your lineups that you need to make up for. At 9,300 with Casey, and he's probably still your second guy in unless you want to run a balanced structure like I just talked about, putting him as your first. I would say that. It was finish out round table, I guess. But I probably honestly wouldn't use Casey, even though I love him that much. I probably wouldn't use him as my first guy. So just talking game theory and strategy for a minute here. We're building your lineups based on what we talked about, even things we're saying, like you don't need him to win. Well, you want him to do something pretty serious if he's going to be your first guy in your lineup, but he does allow a lot to fit in. There's always another way to look at it, but I just want to bring that up. I probably won't use him as my top guy, maybe in 1 or 2 to be contrarian, but not normally. I'm going to get probably like a Ricky Casey build going and do something like that. And lastly, I like your call on Snedeker.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too.
I know it's not, he likes those more, I find, right? Bank grass would be better for him. He's obviously a great putter. He's got a good game. It does seem cheap. And I don't know if you saw the tweet he posted, but it was pretty funny. He was talking about Brooks and how impressed he was with him and how well he's doing. And he said, hashtag number one, hashtag I got to play better. So, he's seeing that. He's a guy that gets motivated, seeing Tiger win the Masters, Brooks win again. Little spark, but I like motivation factors like that. He'll want to find something before Pebble. He's a guy I like for Pebble. So he's going to be looking at something out there. And at 7,900, I think that was one of the sharper calls, Gup, that you had. So I really like that play at 7,900.
Yeah, can I back that up real fast, Gup? That
he's good in the win.
I bet him at Pebble 80-1, like at the beginning of the year. He's 100-1 now. So go bet that now, by the way. I think I'm going to probably load that up again. But
I like that.
But he is I'm with you, Gup, that he played really well at the PGA, by the way, too. Like 14th place. So that's all I wanted to add to that.
Yeah, and Casey, he's a prime suspect for gets hyped up. Everybody thinks everybody's going to be on him, and so they pivot, and then you wind up with lower ownership. So he's in that ballpark, and we'll talk about that Wednesday. Moving along, trying to meet our new standards. Betting. We'll go through this quickly. We put a lot of content out on betting. A lot of talk of it in the Slack. DFS is obviously king per se, but the betting side is, for me, it's, people ask why I don't play cash, and it's really, I use betting, or I use higher stake single entry type stuff as my cash. But you do enough research that betting comes into play. And so, this week's a kind of an unusual, not unusual, but a different style week. It's one of the weeks I looked at the board and within an hour, I basically had my card finished, which some weeks it takes me till Wednesday at 3 to get there. But I took a strategy. I'm in for it. The community already got it this afternoon. I gave a freebie away earlier, but 40-1 or less. Anybody catch your eye, Tambo? I've given one away, which was Kokrak. Obviously, Casey's on my list at 25. If you go down there, you kind of makes your card a little bit different when you're talking about total units, total risk, reward. But anybody 40 or 1 less you like?
I like just Poulter right at 40. That's all I had right now. Poulter 40-1. It's just he's too high above all those other guys that we talked about. To me, it's a little bit of value, not crazy, but it's like I said, if he pulls another Houston Open, I'd love to have it.
Yep. Ruvy?
Not much. Maybe Finau at 25, but you could actually get Kokrak at 45 now, up on Bovada. So.
Yeah, and I don't, it's something I talk about, like a Finau type is, unless you think he's going off Thursday, that's a potential place that you could try to get a live on him. He's definitely in play. Same with Casey. Any of these guys that are just real short,
sure.
You're risking, because if they go out and they're leading first round, you're screwed. But some of those guys, if they can just kind of hem-haul around, even -1, you may get a little bit better number. But I like those guys as well. They're definitely worth a play here at their number. Mid-range, 45-1 to 75-1. Ruvy, any couple, 2, 3, anybody you like in that range?
Sung Jae at 70, it will be a play, and Damon at 60.
Like those. Tambo, anybody you like?
No, I skipped that range and went 4 above, so I'll be in the next round. There
you go. I like a few here. It really depends on if I'm going to go down to Casey or not. If I do, then I drop some, but Answer's on my list. Fitzpatrick's actually on my list. I think he can win a tournament. And so I go back to this in the Slack a lot. A lot of people get trigger happy with live odds and live bets. And I always got to remind people, you really have to believe that guy has you have to figure out a strategy. You think he's going to win somehow. You can't just push the button because he's 200-1, right? And Fitzpatrick has a game to win a tournament on the PGA. Hadn't done it yet, but he's on my short list. Dahmen, yes, definitely would probably be an auto first round leader bet. Potentially could make the final card as well. I'll lead off 80-120. I think I'm gonna camp here this week, especially if I go Casey, because I'm gonna need some longer on guys to balance out the card. We mentioned them all, so I'll just list them and then go to you guys, get it quick. Connors, Strillman, Knox, Neiman, Furyk, even all those guys can win on the tour. I like them. I like the odds, long odds. Tambo, anybody you like?
I got Benny on 100. I got the each way. Sick brag about Canadians having the each way, so I'll take that top 5 if he comes up there. I got Jimmy Walker, more of a FOMO, Jimmy Walker in Texas bet. So 90-1 with an each way. And then I got Hickok and Ollie. I got the ZJ and Spieth Lights at 140 to 1 with the each ways. And that's all I got right now. I really like the sound of your card. So I'll have to see what I can get from that later on. I think I missed one with Answer there. That's probably the other one I really want to get on, but the rest sounds pretty good.
Ruvy?
Yeah, I only have Benny at 80 to 1, and I still like 80 to 1 for Benny. So, and Jimmy Walker at 90. But yeah, I was the same as Tambo. So
Yeah. I missed on. I was all over him on DFS thinking I was cheap, but I didn't look at him betting. He's a guy I'm gonna have to go back and reevaluate. I think that is a good number on him. Dark horse, Tambo, you said you're pretty much done. Ruvy, anybody way deep you like?
Vaughn Taylor maybe 125 and Doug Gim, but not really. So
yeah, Armour's on my list, obviously always. Cage Lee's a guy I think he can get hot and fire, and if I had each way as Tambo mentioned, I definitely would look at Lee potentially, and then Gim again, especially each way. I like his game. I think he's coming in. He played so well, the last tournament. I like Gim.
One other guy I wanted a quick mention, Carlos Ortiz, probably more of a top 20 bet, but 250 to 1. I actually like Carlos Ortiz this week.
I'm fairly confident. I think he qualified for the U.S. Open today as well, so played well. I think he was 8 under going into 18, so he's looking solid. One and done. Obviously, we'll get a little guest pick from Tambo as well. The 2 losers will donate $100 to the charity of my choice.
Bucks, yeah.
Bucks will post his pick tonight or tomorrow. He's obviously, like I said, letting him enjoy his anniversary. He has 2.41 million. He had Paul Casey last week, won 65K. Ruvy has 3.12 in second. Last week you had Jason Day in this one, 91K. I have 6.35 million. Last week I had Matsu, 143K. Ruvy, who you got for your one and done this week?
I'll make it quick. Finau.
There you go. Tambo, I know you'll probably list this on your pod. Who you got?
I got Paul Casey. I'm going to stick with him with the lock play there. I still have him. I got barely anyone in my repertoire, but I got 2.5 million. So I got to get something going here and make it happen soon if I'm going to do something.
Yeah, plenty of time. We still got another segment. This segment's just barely
2 majors left still. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So my pick would have been probably Rahm. I've already used him, but I always throw that out there in case people haven't. But with that, I did have Casey penciled in the last couple of weeks for this, and that's who I'm going with. And my number 1 slot is Paul Casey as well. Before I wrap this up, Ruvy, any final thoughts? Anything you got to mention or throw out there we hadn't talked about? We'll all be in the chat Wednesday night, but anything else besides that?
Nope. I'll have the rubies out tomorrow and ready to go for this week.
Nice. Tambo, hit us up. Let us know where you're going to be on tonight. The only live code to Gup's Corner is currently on your pod. So only way you can get that is listening to Tambo and our boy Kenny Kim, Fantasy DJs. They'll have a special code. It's the only code we have out right now. So to get that code, make sure you listen to their pod as well if you're listening to us. Besides that, where can they find you? And any final thoughts, Tambo?
Not much. You can find me on Twitter at Totag and Tambo. I'm going to be recording the pod with Kenny right after this. Thank you guys for having me on. Pleasure. Appreciate it. Always good to shoot the shit with you and talk golf, especially. So as far as this week goes, like I say, we're going to be in the chat on Wednesday night. My article, Tambo's Tea Time, will be out first thing Wednesday morning with the latest thoughts and trying to do the pivots on there a little bit more based on, besides the ones on the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast, I add 2 more. And then I do put a lot more notes to where I'm at on the other ones based on what I've seen transpire over the week. So sort of a mini, I got it from you with the Gups final thoughts. I thought, why not put like some final thoughts to it than just the picks? So if you want to see more, definitely, like I said, join up. We'll have the code later on the pod.
Appreciate you filling in for Bucks tonight. I know he's appreciative. Thanks to you, Ruvy, as well, as always.
Yeah, it was a good one tonight.
Yeah, as always, join us Wednesday night in the chat room. We do it live on the website instead of the Slack, 9 o'clock Eastern. We do it there so that we can get the transcript and post it to the website for the guys that maybe have Wednesday night church or kids or West Coast, East Coast, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to make sure they can access a transcript. So that's why we do that. And then we follow up afterwards, a lot before and after. Any one of us are always in the Slack leading up to lock. So it's, great community, great time Wednesday night, a lot of value in the Wednesday product. And I've told you guys, we're not going to rush out content. I'd almost rather do the pod on Tuesdays most weeks, but I know kind of industry way it's going, and we can get enough out. But that's part of the reason I want to change the format a little bit. Is there's no need to spend just a ton of time, and we're going to continue to work on within 10 minutes getting you guys what you want from last week, recapping it, giving it our shout outs, and then rolling right into the week. 45-minute, 50-minute on this week. There's so much more value in all the content that we just want to hit the key parts. And then drive you guys to follow up the stuff once we deep dive and get in, and all the guys work hard on that. Like I said, you can join gupscorner.com now if you're not a member. The cool thing about now is if you join today, I looked this up kind of by accident, but you get 5 tournaments right now because it'll literally take you to June 20th, which is Wednesday of the Travelers Week. So you get 5 tournaments if you join monthly. That also includes the U.S. Open. So you're going to get a major and 4 other tournaments worth of content if you join right now. It's $14.99 a month, $119 for the year. And our year is a full year. It's not golf, football, one season this season. It's 365 days. If you want a special code, I download Tambo's pod, get that code, and use it this week. My final thoughts for the night. Started it with a little bit different start with Tiger. And it really doesn't matter about Tiger or Jordan. I get frustrated at times with people always wanting to crown, GOAT, right? Or GOT, or whatever the fuck that show's called. Everybody want to crown it as the greatest fucking thing of all time. And all I've read for a day is how fucking shitty it was for the last episode or last season. So, and I'm speaking to myself here because I have to teach myself to have patience and let things play out and then take a pause, think about it all, digest it, and then come up with the thought instead of being a keyboard warrior and fucking spouting off, this is the greatest thing ever on Friday afternoon of a fucking golf tournament. You sound like an idiot when you say that, right? The tournament's not even halftime yet. And so that I don't call people out on that anymore. We let it play out. But that stuff aggravates me. It's like everybody wants to label the next Jordan or wants to label the next great show or great song or great artist, and let's just enjoy it all. If it's good, it's great, fine. What Brooks did this week was really good. It was probably historic in itself. 4 majors, 2 years. Probably one up on Rory and Spieth's runs, but there was a point in time when we were saying this very similar things about Rory or Spieth in their primes. And so, and now it's, when are they going to win another major? Right. So let's not rush it. Look at DJ. Shit. He's been in how many majors and he literally has one, and that just is shocking in itself. He led almost every major statistic this week, even off the tee over, powerful, He-Man Brooks. And he still couldn't close it, right? He just couldn't put it all together. He's a great talent, and I love DJ. Everybody knows I love DJ, and he's my favorite post-Tiger player. But what kind of wraps up the final thoughts for tonight is it all goes back to the core of our value and trusting the process. It's a grind. I was on my coldest streak ever in DFS this last 6 weeks. Trust me, some of the things I say privately to the guys I trust the most, especially in my circle around here, it's frustrating as hell. I get mad, I get angry and wonder when it's going to break. But that's why we preach the stuff we do on trusting the process, bankroll management, contest selection. And I heard a lot of stuff last night. Even I had a troll, talking about. And he apologized later because he misunderstood what I was saying about bigger. Well, it's easy to fade Brooks in the bigger money things. I wasn't in the bigger money things first. I mean, in the Mayo, I had $45 in and won, $800. Is that a lot of money? I mean, it's not about having $3,000, $5,000 to be able to play with. Just like Tambo, I've documented that I was playing for $300 a week 2 years ago and built my way up and had a process and believed in it and eventually climbed the ladder. But patience is a virtue, right? People aren't patient in today's society. And I know that's a knock on millennials, which I'm technically kind of categorizing as you want it now. And trust me, I do too. But in this world, if you're going to do it competitively and really want to engage in DFS or betting, you've got to learn patience to be successful. And you don't have to have the biggest money. We listed it off to start the pod, and Rachel knows this, my wife, and people knows that's my biggest joy on Sundays is seeing these guys that put in $70 and win 500, because that was me 2 years ago, right? That's what I was doing. I was putting in 120 and I'd win 400. Now, okay, now I get to move up a little bit, and I love seeing that and love teaching people that's what it's about to be competitive here. And eventually you will get up to some of those bigger times. Eventually you'll win a satellite and maybe get your chance at a 555 or 3180 or whatever. So, to wrap it up, what the community has come into, and we hit over 1,300 subscribers this week. It's the best value in the market. And I can say that without acting like I'm boasting or anything like that. The family environment there. And Saturday night, we had a big fun, I was loose. I was having fun. I was playing well in my tournament, had some Tito's going. And, I think we gave away $400, $500, $600 that night in the chat, talking about music and all kinds of stuff. And it was just a cool night. And Rachel was in the room and she saw it all. And it's unique. And that's what we built it upon. And I wouldn't have done it by myself. And I don't take credit for it by myself. The partners and the team here are all in. And I really can't wait for the rest of the year. And football season is going to be special as well. But I would say now's the time to join if you want to get in with us. We're a special kind of community, and give it a try for a month. You get 5 weeks, a major. If you don't like it, cancel. But I guarantee you'll probably upgrade to an annual. With that, I'm just going to say it again. 39 make cuts, 38 top 25s, 26 top 10s, 13 wins and 4 majors in 2 years. That's special. We'll see you Wednesday night.
SmashFactor.